Hi friends, it's Jules. Welcome to Jules Reads. This is going to be a weekly reading recap. It's more like a mid-month recap of March since we are already halfway through the month and I haven't done one of these yet. So let's get started with the books I've finished so far in March. I've finished 3 books and I have my really cute little tracker here. The first book I finished was Colson Whitehead's The Nickel Boys, and this is a book about it's a novel, but it's based on a true story about the reformatory in Florida that was open for like 110 years. And this follows a boy in that reformatory and then his relationship with another friend and their struggles. It's devastating. It's a hard read. It is important to read. I think there's another one based on this reformatory by, it might just be called The Reformatory by Tananarive. I want to read that one as well, and I want to see this movie. If I were to give it a rating, I would say probably a 4 out of 5. It didn't hit me like I thought it would emotionally, but I did enjoy it, and I think it's an important story to tell, and I liked viewing it through this viewpoint. I definitely want to check out the movie. The movie was nominated for an Oscar. So that is The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. The next book I finished was completely on audio, and that was The Illustrated Man by Ray Bradbury. And this is a collection of short stories, science fiction stories, and it starts off with you following a man with a bunch of tattoos, and then those tattoos kind of coming to life or seeing the future. I loved it. Now that I think more about it, I think I would probably give it a 5 out of 5. I do want to reread it physically. I cannot find a copy that's not a mass market paperback. So once I find an actual copy that I would enjoy reading, I will pick that up. I liked it. I think the short story, The Exiles, I really enjoyed. I can't remember the other one, but it's all science fiction, short stories. The audio was fantastic if you want to do that. And I was kind of on a Ray Bradbury kick. I've never read Ray Bradbury before, but I did watch a movie, not the book, but I watched a movie, which I will talk about in a book in a little bit. All right, the other book I listened to completely on audio, but I do own it too. That is The Life We Bury by Allen Eskens. I had this on my radar for a while. It's a Minnesota author. Allen is from Minnesota, and I'm from Minnesota. And I like reading Minnesota stories. This gives me William Kent Kruger vibes. I loved this book. The audio is amazing. I did this on my walks and my commutes to work. I'm already listening to the second book in the series. This follows Joel Talbert. He is a college student at the University of Minnesota, and he's going into journalism, and he has to write a biography about somebody, and he decides to go to a senior living facility and interview somebody that's elderly because they probably have more to say about what happened in their life. And he actually comes to interview a person that was convicted of a murder 30 years ago. And so things start to unravel from there. I love the Joe Talbert character. He takes really good care of his brother with autism, and there is some romance in here as well. I loved it. It's a mystery, but it surrounds itself with heart and emotion, and 5 out of 5. I'm going to continue in the series, continue reading Allen Eskens. This was my first Allen Eskens book. Highly recommend this book. Okay, so those are the 3 books I've finished so far in March. Currently reading, I am reading The Prophet Song by Paul Lynch. I'm also doing this on audio as I read because I really want to absorb it, and it's a book that I would not be able to read. I mean, I could, but it wouldn't be my preference just physically because there's no paragraphs and there's also no quotations when someone is speaking. So the audio is really helping me with that. And I'm only about 30 pages in. I just started it. This is our book club pick in real life for March. We had the theme of Ireland, and this is the book that was chosen. I am liking it. It's kind of a little hard to read right now based on what's going on in our world. But it is about a guy who, in Ireland, he is coming to, or he might be arrested I think that's what's going to happen for being a journalist. I don't know too much about it. I don't want to speak too much about it, but I am enjoying it. I am enjoying the audio. I don't think I could read this physically just based on the style of writing. This was nominated or won the Booker Prize in 2023. The other book I'm physically reading, I have 3 actual audiobooks going on right now, besides this one, so actually 4, is I'm still reading What Was She Thinking? Notes on a Scandal. It turned into Notes on a Scandal, I think, when the movie was released, and this is Zoe Heller. And I'm about halfway through. This is a book that it's a kind of a triggering subject matter. So it takes place, it's showing an older woman really becoming enamored with a younger woman who is then enamored, the younger woman's enamored with a high school student. And they have an affair. So it is hard to read that based on that subject matter. But that's not the main point of the book. I think it's more so about the older woman, and she's just quirky and a little bonkers. And that's fun to read about her character. In the movie, I do want to watch the movie. It stars Judi Dench and Cate Blanchett. So I think the movie would be great. But that's a hard subject matter to read. If that bothers you, just be warned. But I am enjoying it. I'm enjoying the writing style. It's quirky. There's a lot of funny parts in it. I'm enjoying it. I've been reading it for a while though. I'm not in a reading slump, but I've just been focusing on other things like coloring. So I haven't been reading a ton lately. And then listening to the other book. So I mentioned the sequel to this book. The sequel is The Shadows We Hide. So I'm listening to that on audio. I don't own the physical copy yet. I will. And then I'm enjoying that one. And it's still following Joe Talbert. It's like 6 years later, and he finds out his real dad, or his dad, had left when, I think before he was born, and so this is later on when he's probably in his late 20s, and he finds out his dad passed away, and so there's some mystery behind that, and then his relationship with his mom, and her recovery, and there's a lot of things happening, but I really enjoy it. I enjoy the audio. Liking it. All right, now 2 books. One I've read before, and that is If It Bleeds. And I've listened to that on audio before, but I'm going to just listen to, it's a collection of short stories by Stephen King. I'm just going to listen to The Life of Chuck because that movie is coming out this year. So I want to listen to that, and then I basically started it, but I think I need to restart it because I was not paying attention. This short story collection also has Mr. Harrigan's Phone, which I liked that story, and I liked the movie as well. A lot of people give the movie crap. I liked the movie. And then the other one is also by Stephen King short story collection, and that is Skeleton Crew. I have not read that one before, but I want to focus first on the short story, The Monkey, because I want to see the movie that came out a little bit ago. And that's the short story collection also includes The Mist. I did not know that was in a short story collection. So those are 2 Stephen King short stories that I'm reading. I'm not going to read the whole book, just those short stories in those books. Well, I might read the whole Skeleton Crew at some point. Okay. Let's get into some movies and TV that we've been enjoying so far in March. And 2 that I have just been watching in the background as I'm doing other things is ones I've already watched before. One is The Fall, and that stars Jamie Dornan and Gillian Flynn. Is it Gillian or Jillian? It's Gillian. And this is, Jamie Dornan plays a serial killer, but it's so good. It takes place in Ireland. I have an Irish thing going on, which makes sense. It's March. I'm half Irish. But I've watched it a dozen times. I just love the pace of it. I love Gillian Anderson's character. Jamie Dornan is creepy yet sexy. I don't know. If you've never watched it and you like that sort of thing, I would give it a go. I think I'm watching it on BritBox though, which we watch through Apple TV. And then the other one I've been watching in the background, half paid attention to, a rewatch for the 12th time again, is Breaking Bad. I don't need to explain that show. I'm pretty sure everyone knows what that show is about. But that's interesting when I was like, oh, this is where Better Call Saul comes into the picture. So it's kind of interesting watching it back again. And then some other books or movies that I've watched, okay, so there's 3 movies that I want to talk about. One is, like I said, I was watching, or on a Ray Bradbury kick, I watched the movie Fahrenheit 451. I've never read the book. I liked the movie. The movie gets a bad rap as well, but I liked it. I don't know. And I'm kind of a harsh movie critic, but I liked it. It has Michael B. Jordan in it, and who is I can't remember. Michael Shannon? Is that his name? I don't know. I liked it. It's dystopian, and I'm sure a lot of you already know or have read Fahrenheit 451, but it's living in a world, it's sci-fi-ish, and living in a world where books don't exist, and you are either killed or arrested for reading books and having books. I do definitely need to read it. It is devastating. If we were to ever have a world like that, it would be devastating. And just so people growing up don't even know how to do mathematical problems because they didn't have books. It's crazy. It's a crazy movie. I liked it. The other one was a rewatch for me. I actually saw it in the theater and I own the book, loved it. I think the book is right there, has a green cover. It's Small Things Like These. It was a book, it's a small book written by Claire Keegan, and it's a heavy book. Even though it's such a small book, it really packs a punch. It's very emotional. The movie stars Cillian Murphy, from Peaky Blinders, and the movie is very slow and quiet. And my husband and I were watching it, and he's like, I take it this is the whole movie is just going to be this slow. I'm like, yeah, it's a slow movie. But when I went to see it in the theater, everyone just sat there in silence and did not get up even after the credits. It was very emotional, and it's based on a true story. And then the other one we watched is the movie Anora. It just won Best Picture of the Year for 2025, or do we call it 2024? I don't know what they do. And this is so crazy that Anora and Conclave were in the same category. I loved both of them for different reasons. Anora is about a sex worker and dancer who gets hired by this Russian oligarch. I don't know if that's the right word. And he's kind of a brat. He's super young, immature. And it's about the journey with that relationship. And then there's action that happens. There's super funny things that happen and super emotional things that happen. Definitely know that there is a ton of nudity. Obviously, she's a sex worker and a dancer. Ton of violence, and also, not a ton of violence, I wouldn't say, but there's a good amount. And also language. So if those things bother you, stay away from it. It's one of those movies, though, where there's lines that were said, and after the movie ended and the next day, I kept thinking about it. So I definitely want to rewatch it at some point. And then the last thing is a TV show we just started, and this is on Apple Plus, and it is called Dope Thief. I do not remember the guy's name right now. I know him from both the show Atlanta and the movie Bullet Train. He is the main star of this. It's really good. It's really dark, and there's some things that I was like, oh my gosh, I've never even seen that ever in TV or movies before, and I was laughing from it, and my husband's like, why are you laughing? Like, it was not something you should laugh at, and I don't know. I was just so shocked and like, oh my gosh, this is happening. So I liked it. I think we will continue on with that one, but just know it's very dark and intense. All right, I think that is my wrap up for midway through March. I hope you guys have a great St. Patty's Day, and I will chat with you soon.